We're spending some time this morning talking about ADD and ADHD and the two drugs that are used to treat them, Adderall and Ritalin. Now, many people are not aware of all the risk factors that are associated with these two drugs. I know I wasn't aware when I was diagnosed with ADHD and then prescribed to Adderall. These are very serious drugs that can cause harm to the body. Dr. Becky, again, thank you for being on the show and discussing this with our viewers this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now, what would you say are some natural treatment options for children and adults who have trouble focusing?
My first thing is, you know, my love and passion is how do we get the body back in balance? Obviously, if adults and children have a difficult time focusing, in many cases, there's just an imbalance that can be fixed very, very easily. In many cases, especially with children, it's a copper-zinc imbalance. And with a simple little test, you take a snippet of hair, send that off to the lab. They can look to see if the markers are there that shows that there is this chemical imbalance. If there is, when the lab sends the results back, the treatment options are simple. Number one, there might be some specific nutrients that you have to give your child. It might be a little bit of zinc, or it might be a little bit of copper. You don't know until you look at those balances. Might be some manganese. The lab will send back the foods that the child should eat more of to help the brain focus and concentrate, and will also then give a list of foods that the child should stay away from for a window of time. So it's not that these are foods or nutrients that the person, child or adult, would need to be on forever, just for a window of time until the body can get back in balance. And in many cases, that will resolve the ADD, ADHD. There will certainly be some cases where that's not quite true. And when that's not quite true, there are things you can do, other things with nutrition. I think you and I talked a bit, especially about autism, with the gluten and the dairy, so wheat and dairy. And that, in some cases, is also true with the ADD, ADHD kids. So those are simple things that mom can do at home right now, is maybe for a window of time, pull the wheat and the dairy out of the child's diet. Also, I've got a secondary website, I think you and I talked about it a little bit, naturaladdtreatment.com, that's chocked full of all sorts of wonderful resources. It will talk about what are some activities that you can do to help a child slow their brain down so that they can focus a little bit better. What are some outdoor fun activities? In Europe, one of the #1 treatment protocols for kids with ADD, ADHD in Europe is what they call trampoline therapy.
And just jumping on the trampoline.
It's
wonderful.
Right, it does so many things. Number one, A, it burns off a lot of energy, but B, the medical term is called proprioception. That's where the brain is trying to figure out where it is in space and time. And so as all these little micro muscles are contracting, as the feet are coming down, it's amazing how that helps to rewire the brain to be more focused. And so again, you know, simple things, running, skipping, playing hopscotch, jumping rope, just those outdoor activities that are what we call gross motor skill things, where they're just using big parts of their body. Reading books is another thing that I know sometimes parents will say, there's no way I'm going to get little Timmy to sit still and read a book. If you get an intriguing book, let them go. Pick the books out that interest them, even if you don't think it would interest them. It's amazing what sitting and focusing on the words, it's amazing.
Maybe picture books too, that could be a good
Oh
thing,
my gosh, absolutely. So again, many wonderful resources out there that can help to rewire the child's brain, slow down, focus. It's amazing the things they can.
Now, what about for adults though, Dr. Becky? Are there some resources for adults? You know, when I was diagnosed with ADD, I was 22 years old. I was just out of college. So do you know any resources for more of the adults? Because I don't know about some of the other adults out there, but jumping on the trampoline, I don't know if I would do that right now.
and you're right, you might not, but hopefully there will be some gross motor activities that would be fun for you, whether it's running, and even if it's not full-on running, just a little jog, or whether it's swimming. I mean, bicycling is good. It really is good, but it's not as good as something that's going to use full gross motor skills. So for guys out there that, you know, see if there's like a softball league. Most communities throughout the United States of America will have softball leagues. I mean, so yeah, gross motor things are wonderful. And again, you can't help but to go back to, and it seems counterintuitive, but we've talked about this before, to stay away from the computer, to stay away from the video games, to stay away from the television, because all of that sensory input does short the brain out. So when you can quiet yourself with books, first you need to burn off the energy and rewire the brain. That's why the outdoor gross activities are so important. But then also quieting yourself with reading. There's got to be topics for adults out there that there's just got to be some topic somewhere that will interest them enough to want to pick up a book.
Yeah, and running, you mentioned running too.
Yes.
That was a big thing for me. That helped me a lot when, when I got off the medicine.
It's one of the best things in the world, again, because it burns and it fires all the neurons in the gross motor skills, but it also, you know, quiets the brain and just allows the brain to get some peace. It clears the cobwebs, which is why, you know, people use that term, oh, when I run, I clear the cobwebs, because it clearly does that. Yep.
And to give hope for people out there, I feel like I can focus even better now than the times that I was on the drug.
Right, and what do we know for sure? When you run, when you swim, when you bicycle, when you read a book, the side effect of death doesn't exist. But when the United States government puts a black box warning on Ritalin and says the side effect is death, when Canada says the side effect of death in Adderall is too great a risk, we're pulling it off the market, again, you don't get a do-over when you die.
Right, right.
And so, like you said, the fact that you feel better, more clear, more focused, just by going outside and burning off energy, it's a simple cure.
Simple cure. Well, thank you so much for sharing
You're
all
so
of this.
very welcome. Thank you very much.
This is so important for people to get aware about what can happen.
Yep.
So hopefully our viewers were able to take something from it. I'm going to take a quick break right now, everybody, but I will be right back with local artist Tim Marshall Curtis. Please stay with me.